Yeah, I guess he's there.
Dave, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're audible.
So we will discuss moment of inertia and we'll start this rotation chapter. So moment of inertia basically is the rotational analog for mass. Moment of inertia plays the same role as mass in normal kinematics. Kinematics and dynamics, when you do Newton's laws, whatever mass does, that is the replacement of that in rotation is moment of inertia. Now, how does that happen? Because this F is equal to ma equation, when you write for rotations, it becomes torque is equal to I alpha. So alpha is angular acceleration, that is replacing normal acceleration, and torque replaces force, right? So
Yes.
so the same constant of proportionality, like m was a constant of proportionality between force and acceleration. Similarly, I is the constant of proportionality between torque and angular acceleration. So
Right.
we had already covered basic meaning of angular acceleration and stuff. Angular acceleration is basically d omega by dt, where omega is equal to angular velocity, which is d theta by dt, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And we have these two relations. We also have velocity is equal to r omega, right? Actually,
Correct.
we should write it as 1 second, r cross omega. We should write it as, but
Mm,
r cross omega. Once, let me think. Velocity is like this, and v vector, r vector is like this. R cross omega will be like this. Yeah, r cross omega. Omega cross r. Omega cross r is my velocity vector. Okay. So the way you understand it is there is a slight problem with the angular velocity, uh, thinking of angular velocity as a vector. Angular velocity has only two directions. Okay. Like if a particle is rotating along a circle, right? Suppose
yeah.
it is going this way, right? So angular velocity vector can be thought of as either coming out of the plane or going into the plane. Okay. So these are the
Right.
only two possible directions for W vector. Possible directions of angular velocity vector. So such vectors are called polar vectors, polar or axial vectors. This is not a real vector. It is something called a pseudo vector actually.
Correct.
Normal vectors should have any direction should be possible, right? But for angular velocity, the only two directions that make sense for angular velocity is either if you are rotating anti-clockwise, you can choose this to be your direction for angular velocity, or you could choose this. That is a matter of convention. Okay. So by convention, what we assume is that this is your anti-clockwise, your thumb coming out, right? If you curl your fingers along this direction, right,
Yeah, correct.
and your thumb will come out, no?
Yes, yes.
The thumb points in the direction of the angular velocity. So this is right hand thumb rule basically. Okay. So
Hmm.
so now if angular velocity is like this, then omega vector is basically omega in k cap, right?
Yeah.
Omega vector can be written as omega k cap. R vector is clearly, like if I have a circle like this and a point is like this here, R vector is clearly in the j direction, right? No, R vector is clearly in the I direction.
Yeah.
And omega
Correct.
has been thought of because of right hand rule. It has been thought of in the k direction, right?
Yes.
Now velocity should come out to be in the j direction, no? Which makes sense. Velocity right now is plus j, right?
Correct. Correct.
So how will it make sense? It will make sense if Vj is equal to omega cross r, right? Not r cross omega, which will become omega k cross ri, and k cross I is j,
Yeah. Yes.
right? Which
Yeah.
fits. You understand?
Correct.
It fits only if you take, if you assume that your angular velocity vector is following right hand thumb rule, right? Correct? If you assume that angular velocity vector follows right hand thumb rule and it comes out of the plane of the paper, if it is anti-clockwise, right? Then the only way the formula works and gives a sensible direction for the linear velocity is if you write it as omega cross r, right? If I had written r cross omega, then it would have come minus j, no? Correct?
Correct.
Are you understanding what I'm saying? So
Yes. Yes.
E vector is basically omega vector cross r vector. Here we are following the convention of right hand thumb rule for this, right?
So just one doubt, the way polar or axial vectors or pseudo vectors, is there any particular special name for normal vectors like velocity vector or acceleration vector?
That is a vector.
Okay, so they don't have any special name like these two.
The special name is to distinguish between a normal vector and this weird vector which has only two directions.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Normal vector, that is what is called vector. And this is not a real vector. It is a fake vector. It's a pole. It has only two possible directions, only two pole or axis, right? Along the
Right.
axis it can be.
Right.
So,
Correct.
so here right hand thumb rule is the choice of convention that we have made. If we had decided that right hand thumb rule was not correct and left hand thumb rule was correct, right? Then my formula should have looked like this.
Yeah.
Right? But our matter of convention is that in physics we are taking right hand thumb rule. So it formula that makes sense is this, right? So omega can be thought of as a vector, r is obviously a vector, and v is a vector. Cross product has become v, right? So this is the meaning. Now that you know that, now you can say things like dv by dt should be equal to d by dt of omega cross r, right? Correct? So
Correct.
acceleration of the particle will be this, which will be equal to d omega by dt cross r plus omega cross dr by dt, right? Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So this dr by dt will not change, right? Generally this is constant, no? Radius is constant.
Yeah.
So this will go away and this will become your d omega by dt will be alpha. Right?
Yeah.
This is the a is equal to what you remember as r alpha. But
Yeah.
it has to be written like alpha cross r. If you want to get correct directions in a vector form, right? See, normally
Yes.
people remember it like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
But it is slightly misnomer types, because if you want to do the directions also properly, you should remember it like this. Right? This will give you proper directions.
Hmm.
Okay.
Correct. Correct.
So, okay. So all the kinematics terms and all have direct counterparts in rotation. So we have seen this is acceleration, this is angular acceleration, and similarly angular velocity and stuff. So we have also seen what is the meaning of torque. Torque is equal to R cross F. So torque of a force, or basically the turning effect of a force, right, is equal to R cross F. Now, last class we were seeing how to calculate torque. So if there is a body like this, and if there is a force applied on this body like this, and let's say it can rotate about this point, this is fixed, right? So the rod can rotate like this, and there is a force like this. So force, the turning effect, or how much it will rotate, will depend on the magnitude of R cross F. R is measured from the axis to the point where the force is applied. So this vector is my R vector from the axis to point of application of the force, right? Always that is the case. To measure torque, you have to think about which is the axis. You cannot measure torques arbitrarily.
Yeah.
Right? Torque is always with reference to an axis. All through this chapter, you have to be very careful about which axis you are talking about. Like, it's not enough to say angular velocity is this, or angular acceleration is this. You have to specify which axis. Similarly, torque is about which axis, right? So from that axis to the point of application is this my R vector. The torque would be R cross F. So R cross F, this between these two vectors, the angle is theta, right? So you can say that R cross F is defined to be RF sine theta is the magnitude, right? Basically, you can say that the perpendicular component of this force is F sine theta, right?
Correct.
This is the part that carries, that tries to turn it, right? The perpendicular component matters when you are talking about torque. So RF sine theta is the magnitude. What doesn't matter is this component, F cos theta. That is trying to pull the rod out. No, that is not trying to turn it. Right?
Yeah.
That is not effective in turning it, right? Because the angle between this force and R vector is 0. So R cross F will be 0 for F cos theta, right?
Yeah,
You understand?
correct.
The angle between this force and R vector is 90, which gives a substantial torque. But the angle between this force and this is 0. So that doesn't give anything.
Yeah.
So you could have written it as F was equal to F cos theta I cap plus F sin theta j cap, and done R cross F. R is equal to R I cap. R I cap cross with this, right? So that will give I is 0, and this I cross j will give a K torque, right? So notice that torque comes out in the K direction, right? See, torque vector is in the K direction. The body will be turning in the anti-clockwise fashion, and torque vector has come out as plus K, right? Something plus K, right?
Yeah.
Right? I cross j is K, no? RF sine theta K. Right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So notice again, right hand thumb rule is working. The body is turning in the anti-clockwise direction, and the thumb will point outward, right?
Yeah.
Right? So torque is also one of those axial vectors.
Yeah.
Torque is also a pseudo vector. It is going to be only in two directions, either K plus K or minus K, right? It cannot be in some arbitrary, any direction is not possible for it, right? So this is also an axial vector. One more reason why it is called polar vector or pseudo vector is because, see, torque is also a pseudo vector. What is the difference between a normal vector and a pseudo vector? So think about, say, a normal vector like velocity or stuff, right? Velocity. Suppose a particle was going at some velocity like this, right? V. This or velocity or displacement or momentum. These are normal vectors. Why are they proper vectors? Because y and x, suppose you have chosen your axis, right? Y and f, right? What happens?
Yeah.
What right now velocity vector has been decided as vx I cap plus vy j cap, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Now what
Yeah.
happens if you invert the axis? Suppose new axis is this. New axis is like this, x dash, y dash, right? If you write the new axis x dash, y dash, in this, the new velocity will be some minus vx I cap and minus vy j cap, no?
Yeah.
If you looked from here, right, from this axis perspective, right, then both the velocity components will be negative right now.
Hmm.
Both, it has
Right.
gone in the third quadrant.
Yeah. Correct.
So basically what happens is normal vectors, proper vectors will reverse their sign if you flip the axis, right?
Correct.
So displacement will also be like that, right? If I moved
Yes.
like
Yeah.
this in some plus x plus y, but I looked from here now, it has become minus x minus y, right? So
Correct.
velocity, displacement, any normal vector will become will have a minus sign if you shift the axis to minus x minus y, right? But notice what happens to torque. Torque is equal to r cross f, right? Now r will become minus, right, if you flip the axis, right?
Yes.
And force will also become minus if you
Yeah,
flip
that
the
will become
axis.
minus as well. Yeah, correct.
But torque becomes r cross f only. Torque doesn't change in the new axis also.
Yeah.
Correct.
You understand? So torque is not behaving in the same fashion. On reversing the axis also torque is same. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything that does not behave like a displacement does not behave like a displacement. Displacement is the idea on the basis of which the whole vectors was formed, right? The whole concept of vectors is based on
Yeah.
displacement.
Correct.
So torque is not something that behaves like a displacement. No, on shifting the axis, it does not behave like displacement. It retains its sign, right? Similarly, omega will also not behave like displacement. Omega will also not behave like displacement. Correct?
Yes.
Because why? Because V was equal to omega cross R, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
V will become negative, R will
Yeah.
become negative. So
Yeah.
if
So
omega was also negative, then it would not have worked out. No?
yeah.
Omega has to retain its sign, no? In the new system. Then only it should become negative this side, no? Are you saying what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
you understand, omega,
Yeah.
on switching the axis, omega stays as omega. Then only you will have velocity switching its sign and R switching its sign, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So basically, omega, torque, angular momentum, these are not going to be real vectors. These are pseudo vectors. Anyway, it's not so important, but it is important to know like these are slightly strange, right? So,
Yeah.
so then before this, what was I saying? I was talking about torque, torque value and all, right? So how to calculate torques?
Yeah. We're discussing.
So if you have multiple forces, right? Suppose these forces are there, F1, F2, and F3. Torque total will just simply be, torque total will be equal to torque 1 plus torque 2 plus torque 3. And you have to do R1 cross F1 plus R2 cross F2 plus R3 cross F3, right?
Okay, so it's just an algebraic sum.
You have to be careful about the vectors, you know, but it is
Yeah, I
just
mean like
addition.
torque total.
Correct.
Yeah, it is just addition. So this one will create a torque. This one will create, the second one will create a partial torque because of F2 sine theta, right? This one will have zero torque,
Yeah.
right? All the torques will be measured from the axis. This is your R1 vector. This is your R2 vector. And this is your R3 vector, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So calculation of torques, just be careful about the axis and do your R cross F for each force, right? Write the R vector, write the F vector, and do the cross product, you will get the torque, right? Now, are you clear on this?
Yeah.
In case it is an arbitrary body, like any arbitrary body, and suppose it is pivoted at some point here, there is an axis going into and like this coming out, and suppose there are forces like this F1, these forces are in the plane of the figure, F2, F3, and so on, right? So torques will be from this point where the pivot is, this is the axis, this is your R1, this is your R2, and this is your R3, right? So notice if R3 and F3 are aligned in like this or whatever, torque due to this is zero.
Zero. Yeah.
And if there is an angle between them, then there will be some amount of torque, right?
Correct.
Here, the torque will be because of which angle? It will be because of this angle, right?
Correct.
Correct? Because vectors from a point, when you do cross products, you can, the angle that matters is this angle. When two vectors are emanating from one point, right? That angle matters, right? So
Yeah.
don't say this angle. This angle is not correct, right? Or sometimes it is easy, instead of worrying about angles, you can just think about this force will rotate it in this direction and this force will rotate it in this direction, right? Rotate the body, right? So
Correct.
these two torques have to be added, right? Total torque will be the sum, right?
Yeah.
Notice that the
Correct.
torques, you can do magnitude of the torque and add it up like this, but actual torque direction is in the plus K, right? When you do R1
Yeah.
cross F1, it will come out to be in the plus K direction, right? No matter what you do, because R1 is in the plane, right? It will be I plus J something, right? And this is also in I plus J something, right? When you do
Yeah.
cross products, eventually whatever will be left will be plus K.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only K components will be left, no, when you do R cross F.
Yeah.
So the real direction of the torque is K, but for the purpose of our physical understanding, it is anti-clockwise, clockwise rotation. Oh, okay, wait, it's clockwise, so it should be minus K. So the real direction will be minus K, right? Anti-clockwise is plus K because right hand thumb rule. Curl your fingers of the right hand. Anti-clockwise gives upward finger, right? Upward thumb,
Yes.
right? Is it clear? Torque calculations. The entire thing should be clear. Direction of torque,
Yeah.
what is meaning, how to calculate and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
So torque, suppose T is equal to R cross F, and F was equal to M dV by dt or MA. So it is R cross MA, right? So
Yeah.
basically torque is equal to M. M can be taken out, it's a scalar. It is R cross A, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And
Yeah.
A, if it was a rotating body, A could have been written as alpha cross R, right?
Yeah.
So now R cross A becomes R cross alpha cross R, right?
Marcus. Yeah.
Correct. So
Correct.
now, right now you don't know enough vectors, but when you do maths, there is a thing called triple product.
Yeah. We did this.
When did you do this?
Alan.
Vector triple product they have done.
Yeah.
When?
But they didn't. They just made us do it like the long way. I don't know about any short way. They like they made us do it in 2 steps.
Uh-huh.
Like B cross C and then the
That
thing
is
of that.
obvious.
Yeah. So that's how we did it in some questions. I don't know. Like our teacher shared some practice questions and that there were questions on these.
No, no,
Like only simple one.
I'm not talking about when you actually calculate this and then
Yeah. Then that's what we know.
the method that you will learn is this is A dot C B minus
Yeah. So
A dot
yeah, we
BC.
don't.
Yeah, we were just given the formula. We were given the formula
wait
of
one
this.
second, now I am also confused. One second. Uh, it is 132 minus 123, no? Yeah, I think it is this. Just check the formula once.
Yeah.
It should be this. In the first introduction chapter, it will be.
Yes, it's there. Just a minute.
Yeah. Okay. 1 second. So cross product.
Was so back. Yeah.
It will be correct only, but yeah, just see once.
Yeah.
It is B into A dot C minus C into A dot B.
A dot C is a
Yeah, it's the
scalar.
same.
Yeah, same
A
thing.
dot C is a scalar and A dot B is a scalar, right? Dot product.
Yeah,
So it's a scalar multiplied by B minus a scalar multiplied by C. So
Hmm.
basically the way to remember is 1, 2, 3. The answer comes out to be 132 minus 123. 1.32 minus 1.23. So answer should have come out as a vector, right? Because this is a vector, this is a vector, it's a cross product of two vectors, right? So answer
Yeah,
should have been a vector, and now this is a vector multiplied by some number and minus another vector multiplied by some number, which is a vector, right? So when you
yeah,
do R cross alpha cross R, what will come out is 1.3 and 2 R dot R alpha minus R dot alpha R, right?
yes, sir. Yeah,
So this will become R dot R will be just R square and alpha will be like this. What is R dot alpha, right? Now notice that when anytime you are in a circle, R is in the plane, but alpha was in out of the plane. No?
yeah,
Alpha vector was in
Yeah.
K, right? Angular acceleration, right?
Correct.
So this will be 0
Yeah.
because 90-degree angle between them. No? R vector will be in the plane, alpha will be perpendicular to the plane,
Correct. Correct.
right? So this will be 0. So
Correct.
this component will go away. So this is what is left. So it becomes m r square alpha, right?
Yeah.
And this is called I. This thing is called I. So from the definition of vector torque as r cross f, you can understand how this moment of inertia concept has come. Because torque was defined as r cross f, if you write f as m into a and r cross a, then it becomes r cross a was equal to r alpha cross r for the case of rotation.
Correct.
So from there it comes that torque becomes mr square alpha, right? So that is I alpha, right?
Okay.
So you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has
Got
become
it.
I is taking the place of my mass, right? So the correspondence between the normal kinematic stuff and rotation, that is what you need to see. Here torque took the place of force and I took the place of m, and I is equal to mr square. This is for a simple case. We will do the more general cases soon. So moment of inertia basically measures moment of inertia.
Sir, is moment of inertia a vector or a scalar quantity?
It is scalar, no? It's like mass.
Okay.
Mr
Okay.
square.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
R dot R is scalar.
Yeah.
So it is like a mass. It has a value. So moment of inertia measures vector quantity. Doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make this equation only not make sense.
Yeah.
You cannot write vector into vector like this. That doesn't make any sense. Either it has to be a dot product or it has to be a cross product, right? If it is a dot product, this will be turning out to be a scalar, which is not true.
Hmm.
If it is a cross product, then torque and alpha will not have the same direction.
Right.
If it is a cross product, then if it was a vector, then torque will not have the same direction as alpha, no? Like that will be totally weird, because generally just now we saw that both of them are in the kk, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that cannot happen. So basically I is a scalar. I is a scalar. It was r dot r had come, right? So you need to understand the physical significance of I. Physical significance is it measures the resistance of a body to rotation about an axis. To rotation about an axis. Why am I calling it a resistance to rotation? Because higher the moment of inertia, higher the mi, lower the angular acceleration for equal torque, right? Alpha
Yes.
basically is
Correct.
equal to torque by I. So if I is high, then angular acceleration is low, right? Basically, that is why the word inertia is there in that, right?
Yeah.
Because just like mass is acts like a form of inertia, right? Mass doesn't allow it to quickly accelerate. The higher the mass, the slower the acceleration of a body, right? For the same amount of force, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Similarly here, moment of inertia also acts in a similar way. So the smaller the moment of inertia, the easier it is to rotate the body about that axis, right? And obviously here, moment of inertia of a body will very clearly depend on the chosen axis. It's not that moment of inertia is one value for a body irrespective of the axis, right? Because when we derived it, it came as r dot r, right? Right?
Yes.
Now the value of r depends on where you chose your axis, no?
Yes.
So suppose I have a ring, I have a plate or something, right? And if I chose my axis to be the center point, right? Then r for any point is the radius, right? Correct?
Yeah.
And r dot r would be, the value would be r square, which is the radius of the plate. But if I was fixing my axis here, right? And I'm doing a slightly weird sort of rotation about the edge, right?
Yeah.
Could be a rotation like this also. Rotation can be about any point. You can fix anything, right? You can rotate this also, no?
Yeah.
Correct.
Understand, a ring can be rotated around a pole, no?
Yeah.
Like this. This will go like this and it will come this side sometime, right?
Yeah.
So in that case though, r is different, no? For this
Different.
point it is, let's say if a line passing through the center is there, then it will be 2r distance, right? But this point is going to be at a different distance, right? And this point is going to be at a different distance, right? Correct?
Correct. Correct.
The calculation of moment of inertia will be different, no, because r is different, no, for this axis. Every point is not at the same distance, right?
Yes.
Only one point is at 2r distance, correct?
Correct.
All the other points are at varying distances. Distances vary from 0 to 2r, right?
Yeah.
All the points on the ring or on the plate are at varying distances, no?
Correct.
So r dot r calculations will also be different. M r dot r, what you had to do, right, would be different. So moment
That
of
would be
inertia
different.
would be different. Would be different for edge, for the axis passing through the edge axis, right? As compared to the one passing through the center. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So could you
now
explain this part again once?
there are two axes chosen.
Hmm.
This is axis 1, this is axis 2. You can rotate the body about the center, you can rotate the body about the end point. This is a rod. If I
Yeah.
choose to rotate it about the center, then my r dot r calculations are like this much, this much. These are my r dot r for each point of the rod, right?
Yeah.
Distances of all the points of the rod go from 0 to L by 2 from this axis.
Yeah.
But distances from this axis go from 0 to L.
Yes.
So clearly here M r dot r values will be higher than here M
Yeah.
r dot r values will be lower.
Yes.
I1 will be lower and this I2 will be higher
Oh, okay.
because
Understood.
these radiuses are bigger, no? There are
Yeah.
points which are farther away from this axis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is why the moment of inertia will depend on the choice of axis. And once you have decided the axis, then you can find the moment of inertia. So the way to find moment of inertia, the definition of moment of inertia for a system of particles, about a chosen axis, about a chosen axis, moment of inertia will be summation of I is equal to 1 to n mi ri square, which is basically summation of I is equal to 1 to n mi ri dot ri, right? This is your moment of
Yes.
inertia
Correct.
of the system. So for each particle, what you have to do is that suppose there is an axis here and there are 2-3 particles which are part of some body or whatever. This whole system is basically rotating. Everything else is massless. These are the mass points, right?
Okay.
So this is M1, this is M2 and M3, and the whole thing is going around this axis, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so what you have to do is R dot R. So let's say this is rotating about a particular point, right? So this is my Ri, R1, and this is my R2, and this is my R3.
Hmm.
And you have to do Mi Ri square, M2 R2 square, and M3 R3 square. And
Yeah.
the sum of the Mi Ri squares will give the moment of inertia of the entire system.
Hmm.
This is true for a finite set of points. Finite set of points, you could do a summation like this.
Yeah.
What happens if the number of points is continuous or infinite number of points, right?
Hmm.
Then you replace the summation by an integration. So you say di for a mass element will be dm r dot r, right?
Hmm.
Di
Correct. Correct.
integral
Correct.
of di would be this. Basically, you are defining di is equal to dm into r dot r.
Yeah.
So di is chosen from some axis. You are saying some mass element is at a distance of r from some axis, right? So the moment of inertia of that tiny mass element is equal to dm into r dot r. And when you integrate it, you will get the total I, right?
Yeah.
For the whole body. So we can do some examples of moment of inertia calculation. So suppose there is a rod. Rod has mass m, length l, and you are finding the moment of inertia about this axis, right? This is my
Hmm.
axis. So you can take tiny mass element dm at a distance, say x, right? So
Yeah.
di of that would be dm x dot x, so x square, right?
Hmm.
And integration
Yeah.
of di would be the moment of inertia, so integration of x square dm. But now dm you should express in terms of x. So let's say this
M by
thickness
L
was
into.
dx, this was the length of
Yeah.
this. So dm will be equal to m by l into dx. So you'll get integration of x square m by l dx, and x varies from 0 to l, right? X will go from 0 to l. The l was the length of the rod. So it will be
Correct.
m by l, l cube by 3. So you will get ml square by 3 is the moment of inertia of the whole rod. About this axis, if I had done the same calculation for moment of inertia about the center point, right? This axis,
Then the limit would be L by 2.
then the limit will be minus L by 2 to L by 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
You have to do the whole rod. So x
Mm-hmm.
dx, same thing. The whole integration is the same, except it is minus L by 2 to L by 2 of x square m by L dx. So that becomes equal to x, m by L comes out, x cube by 3. So it is going to be L cube by 24 minus minus, so plus L cube by 24. So this will become m L square by 12.
Yeah.
So notice that this fits in with our prediction that moment of inertia here should have been larger. This is
Correct.
ml square by 3. This is ml square by 12, right? So this is 4 times larger from this axis. Moment of inertia is larger. Moment of inertia is smaller. This also fits in with the physical intuition that it will be easier to rotate around this. If you think about it,
Yeah.
spinning something around this center point is much easier than spinning around the end.
Yeah.
I mean, take a moment and think about it. Spinning about the center is very easy. You can twist a pen or something and very easily it will
Yes,
spin.
yes, correct.
But it will be slightly harder to spin around the end point. It will, I mean, it is physically not possible because it is difficult to achieve, but it will be slightly harder. So spin something about the end, right? Moment of inertia about the end point is greater than moment of inertia about the center. So for the same force, alpha is smaller here and alpha is larger here, right? For the same torque.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you will notice that if you try to spin about the end point, it will not spin so much. But from the center, it will spin much more, right? So
Yeah.
this is like one example of the moment of inertia calculation. Like in the book, there are multiple examples. So suppose you have a ring, right? There is a ring like this. It has mass distributed on its edges, right? So ring mass is entirely on the edges. There's nothing in between, right? M
Correct.
and R. This is the dimensions and the mass of the ring. Now you have to find moment of inertia about this axis. So every mass element dm is located at the same distance r, no?
Yeah.
So di is
Correct.
equal to dm r dot r square. But when you do the integration of di, this r square is constant, so it comes outside, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere, everyone has at the same distance,
Yeah.
right? So r square can come outside. So this is just integral dm, which will be mr square.
Hmm.
So for a ring, it is mr square, right? For a plate, right? Now this is a full
Yeah.
plate, right? How would you
Yeah.
do it now? This is a plate.
So
It has mass m, radius r. So
mass m is distributed throughout.
mass is distributed
So
throughout. So what you should do is take rings.
okay, then integrate the rings.
Take rings, take small rings. So let's say we have a small ring, which is, so how do you make that ring? It is at a distance, its radius is x, and this thickness is dx, okay? X is going in this direction,
Hmm.
right? So this thickness is dx, okay? So what is the mass in this tiny ring? Mass in this tiny ring dm is equal to m by pi r square into area of this shell, right? Which is 2 pi x dx, right?
Correct.
Area is equal to perimeter into thickness.
Yeah.
Pi x dx, or you can do it as pi x plus dx whole square minus pi x square. That will also give the same answer. So this becomes 2m x by r square dx is your dm, right? Correct?
2mx by r square. Yes.
This is my dm. Now I know the formula for moment of inertia of a ring. So di for this I know is equal to dm into r square, right? This is the radius of the ring x, right? So I know
Yeah.
from the previous derivation that moment of inertia of a ring is always m into the radius square, right?
Correct.
So moment of inertia of this portion will be di is equal to dm into x square, its radius, right? So to overall I will be equal to integration of di will be equal to integration of dm into x square will be equal to x will vary from 0 to r, and this will be 0 to r x square. Dm can be written as 2mx by r square dx and x square, right? So this becomes 2m by r square comes outside, integral from 0 to r of x cube dx. So this becomes 2m by r square r power 4 by 4, right? So this
Yes.
becomes mr square by 2. So moment of inertia of the solid plate is equal to half mr square.
We don't need to remember these, right?
We need to remember all of these.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Every formula that is in the HCV you need to remember.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought we could just derive this.
You cannot derive everything all the time.
Yeah.
You have to remember all of these. So mr square is ring. So basically rod we have done center point came out to be ml square by 12, and this axis came out to be ml square by 3, right? Then
Yeah.
ring was mr square, plate was half mr square, cylinder is also half mr square, solid cylinder is also half mr square. What we can do is we have to do solid sphere and hollow sphere. Solid sphere and hollow sphere. Okay. So hollow sphere will come out to be 2 by 3 mr square, and solid sphere will come out to be 2 by 5 mr square. Okay. The derivations are in the book.
Yeah.
You should check it out. I will leave it to you, the derivations. These are slightly complicated, so try to understand them clearly. If it is a problem, then we'll discuss it in the next class, but try to do it yourself once.
Yeah.
Apart from this, okay, I want to discuss one or two more things. So suppose it's a rectangular plate. Okay. Suppose it's a rectangular plate. This is B, this is A. Okay. And you want to find moment of inertia. Now, moment of inertia of this can be, now obviously you have to specify which axis, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Correct.
say mass is M. Okay. And let's say one axis was like this, passing through the midpoint of the breadth. Okay. And in the plane of the sheet. So if this is my axis, right? Then I'm trying to spin it like this or like this, right? You understand? I'm trying to flip it around this line, correct?
Yeah.
So this is my axis line. It is in the plane of the rectangle. Of the rectangle. So if it is in the plane of the rectangle, our question is basically find the moment of inertia about this axis. Try this right now yourself. Then this is first part. Second part is I want an axis like this, which is through the midpoint of the length, right? This was B by 2 and this was B by 2, and this was A by 2 and this was A by 2. Okay. This is my first axis and this is my second axis. In this case, if this is my axis, I am trying to rotate it like this, turning it through the space, right?
Yeah.
So this is axis 1, and I want to also find moment of inertia of axis 2. So why don't you try it now? first do axis 1. Think of axis 1. How will you do the moment of inertia? If you are thinking of axis 1, then draw long rods, okay? The element that you should take is, for this axis, you should take an element like this, a thin rod, right?
Oh, right.
Right. Right.
Because this rod will be going like this, no?
Hmm.
Actually, this is not the correct rod. I think you should take a rod like this, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That is better. Because this is my axis, I should take a rod like this,
Yeah.
right? This is rod thickness is x, and let's say this distance is, we know this distance is b by 2, right? This is b by 2, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and add up all such rods, right? So find first moment of inertia of this much, right? And add up moment of inertias of all the rods like this throughout the length of the body, right?
Correct. Just a second.
Remember the formula for the length rod through the center that we had found, no?
Yes. I'm doing that. Just a minute. Just go back to where I was. Okay. Um,
So this rod, right? So let's think about this rod. It has a length of b, correct? It has a thickness of dx, right? And my axis is through the center like this, right? Correct.
Correct.
So axis through the center, the formula was ml square by 12, right? Moment of inertia of a rod.
Yeah.
In this case, the mass of this is dm. So di will be dm into L was length was b. So b square by 12.
By 12, yeah. I tried that.
So di is this. Now dm, mass of this rod you have to write, right? Mass of this rod, see thickness of this is dx and length is b. So area is b into dx.
Yeah.
So mass will be m by ab into b into dx.
What's AB? Okay, the entire area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mass per unit area into area of this, right?
Yeah.
So
M
mass
by A into B into dx.
m by a into dx is my dm, right?
Yeah.
So di will come out to be m by a into dx into b square by 12, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you have to integrate from where to where? X will go
0 to B,
from,
but
x was measured from
0 to, no, wait.
0 to a, yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine,
0 to A.
yeah, 0
right?
to A.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it will become m by a into b square by 12 into integral of dx from 0 to a.
Yeah.
So it is a. So this cancels this. I comes out to be mb square by 12, right?
Hmm.
About this axis, about I1, it comes out to be mb square by 12 of the
Yeah.
whole rectangle, right? Similarly, about this one, this axis I2, you have to take rods like this now, right? Same process exactly,
Yeah.
right? So initial moment of inertia will be dm into a square by 12, but dm will be m by b into dx.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. So in
And
that
then
case, will it be
and
M
x
A
you will
square?
integrate from 0 to b, because x is in this direction. So it will come out to be m a square by 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
M a square by 12 will be the final moment of inertia about this axis, right? Now, are you understanding how it is coming?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we have seen is that there is a rectangular sheet. This was B and this was A, and this moment of inertia came out to be m a square by 12, and this moment of inertia came out to be m b square by 12, right? For the same rectangular rod, right? Correct.
Yeah.
Now What about this moment of inertia? Same rectangular rod, through the center point there is an axis.
Diagonally.
No, not diagonally, perpendicular to
Okay.
the plane. You could spin the thing like this, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, say the midpoint of this is fixed, right? You could spin it like this, no? The whole rod, the whole rectangle,
Yeah.
right? This was flipping like this or flipping like this. This is rotating in the plane.
Correct.
Here the rotation is in the plane, right? So suppose that was my axis. So I have to, so let's draw it nicely. This is my axis. Now the problem is that this is y, this is x. This is y, this is x, and axis is in the z direction, right? Correct. Now the problem is that there is no nice way to do it, right? Like, in the sense that what element will you take?
Hmm.
You understand? Like, here there was at least a symmetrical element, like a rod, right?
Yeah.
In these cases the symmetrical elements were there, no, like this.
Yeah.
And
Yes, correct.
and we knew how to vary it over and add it. We knew the moment of inertia of this, right? So in this case it's a slightly more problematic situation, because we don't know how to take an element here, right? So what we will do is, let's say there is an arbitrary point here, and this is location is x and y, and this distance is dx and this distance is dy, right?
Yeah.
It is located at what point? X comma y. Okay.
Hmm.
If we draw a bigger figure, let's say this is my origin 0 0. At a point x comma y, I'm making a tiny square, right?
Right.
So this distance is dx, this distance is dy, right?
Hmm.
Correct. So what is the distance of r vector of this dm mass? Root x square plus y square, no, this dm. R vector is root of x square plus y square. My axis is at this point, no, k. So you have to take distance from the axis, no?
Yeah, correct.
Are you
Yeah, yeah,
understanding
yeah.
what I'm saying? I'm saying there is a tiny
Yeah.
mass here, right? There is a tiny mass here. Now for this mass, you have to take distance from the axis, right? You have to write di
Yeah.
should be equal to dm into r dot r, correct? Which is r square.
Yeah.
Dm into r square will become x square plus y square, right?
Yeah.
This is my di. How do I write dm though? dm should be equal to m by ab into whatever is the area of this square, right? Area of the square is dx into dy,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Area of this tiny square is dx dy, right?
Yeah.
So dm is this. So di becomes what? M by ab into dx dy into x square plus y square, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Now I have to vary this point. I have to take sum of the moment of inertias of all such points, right? Correct.
Yeah.
So
So we
to
have
take
to know. Yeah.
so I have to take everywhere, no, like this.
Correct.
The whole plate I have to fill up, right?
Yes.
I will be integration of di, which is integration of, but x is also varying, y is also varying. So it's a double integral, right?
Yeah.
both x are varying, ne? Both x and y are changing,
Yeah.
Correct.
right? So basically this is a double integral. X goes from origin, if you measure, it goes to a by 2 and minus a by 2,
Yeah.
and y goes b by 2 and minus b by 2, right?
Yeah.
Right?
We can
And
keep anything first or second, right?
so how
I'm
we
just
will do
asking.
it, the order doesn't matter. So
Yeah, I'm just asking that. Yeah.
so how will we do it now? So we have to sort out one integral first and then do the other integral. Okay. So how we'll do it is m by ab will take outside first of all, and let's focus on the y integral. We'll keep the x variable as it is, right?
Hmm.
Let's focus on the y part. Y varies like this. So integral is minus b by 2 to b by 2 of x square plus y square dy right now I am doing, and then I will do the dx, right?
Hmm.
Okay. I have just written it. I have not done anything yet. So,
Right.
right, I am going to integrate the y part first and then I will integrate the x part. So here x is not changing. Right now you're only changing y, right? So x is a constant here. So this integral will be x square y plus y cube by 3, right? From minus b by 2 to b by 2, right? Integral of minus a by 2 to a by 2 dx, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct. I am not changing x right now. I'm only doing the y integration. So this is what is
Yeah.
coming. So this will become x square. When you put the values, it will be b by 2 minus minus b by 2. So bx square plus this part will become what? B cube by 24 minus minus b cube. So b cube by 12, right?
Yeah.
Right? B cube by 24, b cube by 12 will come. And dx, right? Integral, right? So I will do,
Yeah.
so it will be
Correct.
bx cube by 3 plus b cube by 12 into x integrated from minus a by 2 to a by 2, right?
Yeah.
Right? So now notice here it will become b by 3 into x cube by x cube. When you do it is, okay, so b by 3 into a cube by 8 minus minus a cube by 8, so plus a cube by 8, so a cube by 4, right? Plus b cube by 12 into a, right?
Yeah.
So this is a cube b plus ab cube by 12, right?
Yeah.
A cube b plus ab cube by 12, right? This whole thing. And you divide by m by ab multiplied, right? So
Yeah.
what comes? It comes m by
Correct.
12,
Correct.
and this becomes a square plus b square.
Yeah.
So what is it? Ma square by 12 plus,
Yeah.
does it look familiar?
Yeah. It looks like, yeah. It's just some of those two.
Right? So
Okay. Yeah.
I is equal to I1
I1
plus
plus
I2
I2.
has come, right? Okay.
Hmm.
So right now what we have seen so far is 3 moment of inertias for this plate, right?
Right.
One moment of inertia was about this I. One moment of inertia was like this I1 axis, and one moment of inertia
Correct.
was about I2 axis, right?
Right.
And what we got was I was equal to I1 plus I2, and I1 was mb square by 12 and I2 was ma square by 12, and I was the sum of that, right? So
Correct.
notice that these axes, this axis is x, this axis is y, right? I2 is in y
Yeah.
direction, I1 is in x direction, and this is in the Z direction, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This third axis I was in the Z direction, right?
Correct.
And the angle between X and Y axis is 90.
Yeah.
I1 and I2 were along axes which were perpendicular to each other.
Yeah.
So this is an example of something called the perpendicular axis theorem. Perpendicular axis theorem for moment of inertias. For moment of inertias. What does the theorem say? The theorem says that if you have a planar body, the body should be in the same plane, in one plane. It is not true for 3D bodies, okay? It's only true for 2D bodies like plates and all, right?
Yeah.
If you have a planar body and you have any two axes which are perpendicular to each other. If you have a planar body is in one plane, and any two axes which are perpendicular to each other, and a third axis which passes through point of intersection of those two perpendicular ones, right? Point of intersection of the two perpendicular axes, right? Then I3 is equal to I1 plus I2. Okay. Just like here, Iz was equal to Ix plus Iy. Here we have done the calculations and verified it, right?
Yeah.
In all the other questions, you don't have to actually verify it. You can use the property that if I have three axes, two of which are perpendicular to each other, and the third is passing through the point of intersection of those perpendicular axes, right? Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
And perpendicular to both of them, right? Third axis is perpendicular to both of them.
Yeah.
Right? Then that third axis moment of inertia will be the sum of the two other perpendicular axes, right? Basically,
Correct.
remember the rectangle, and it is only valid for planar bodies. Okay, so that it's not valid for some 3D shapes. Okay, so the entire mass should lie in one plane, and two of the axes should be perpendicular to each other. Then the axis which passes through the point of intersection and is perpendicular to both of them, its moment of inertia is immediately obtained. Okay, so it is the sum of the I1 plus I2. So this will help you in situations where, say, suppose I give you a plate, right? This is a plate, circular plate, and I ask you moment of inertia about a diameter of the plate. Okay, mass m, radius r. This is the question. So now, earlier, remember what we had done? We had done plate about which axis? About the perpendicular through the center, no?
Yeah.
We had done through rings and all we had done, no?
Yes, we had.
We had calculated as mr square by 2, right? Are you guys remembering what we did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr square was by 2 was through an axis passing through the center but perpendicular to it, right?
Yeah.
Now, now this time I'm not asking that. I'm asking about a axis which is the diametric axis, which is passing, which is in the plane of the plate, right? So what I will do is I will call this Ix and I will draw another Iy. Okay,
Hmm.
Ix and Iy are perpendicular, right? So Ix plus
Right.
Iy should be equal to the mr square by 2 by perpendicular axis theorem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is there any difference between this diameter and this diameter?
No.
Like they are literally the same axis.
They're the same.
Yeah.
So this is 2Ix.
So mr square by 2 into,
mr square by 4.
yeah.
So perpendicular axis theorem has told you the answer without doing anything,
Hmm.
right? You don't have to do the integration in this case because it's a planar body and I wanted this axis moment of inertia, but I already know one perpendicular axis for answer, right?
Yeah.
I will take another diametric body. I know that Ix and Iy will be same. So 2Ix will be equal to this, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, so we have learned about this perpendicular axis theorem. Now there is also a theorem called parallel axis theorem. Parallel axis theorem. Parallel axis theorem is a little more straightforward in the sense that, let's say this is the situation. This is a rod. Okay. Now
Hmm.
this is, these are two axes. This is I1. This is I2. Okay. Now
Hmm.
we have already calculated moment of inertias in this case,
Yeah.
right? We have already calculated this came out to be ml square by 3. This came out to be ml square by 12, right?
Yeah.
So now what is special about this axis? This axis I1 is actually should be written as ICM, axis passing through the center of mass, right?
Hmm.
So I1 is clearly ICM. No, it's an axis passes through the center of mass of the rod,
Yeah.
Correct.
right? Now, what you can say is that, see, what is this length? This length is L by 2, right?
Right.
Correct.
So you can clearly see, because we have done these calculations, you can see that I2 is equal to I1 plus M L square by 4, because ML square by 12 plus ML square by 4 is what? ML square by 3. ML
Yeah.
square by
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
Hmm. This result is working out, right?
Yeah.
So what we can write is that I2 is equal to I1 plus M into D square, where D is the distance between I1 and I2.
Yeah.
I1 and I2 were two parallel axes.
Yeah.
These are two parallel axes, and this is not the way to write it correctly. You should always write ICM.
Yeah.
I2 is equal to ICM plus MD square. That is the statement of the parallel axis theorem, where you have to have you always measure parallel axis theorem through an axis through the center of mass. Okay. So
Hmm.
if I had any other axis that I wanted to find, right? I3 suppose, I can write a relation I3 is equal to ICM plus M into X square. And ICM in this case I know, ML square by 12, right? Okay.
Right.
This is the distance between the axis, parallel axis, and the other axis which passes through the center of mass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Now there is a great chance of making mistakes here, because many times people forget that it is important to take the ICM in this. Okay. It's not like this and this you cannot take and write that relation.
Yeah.
Okay. So suppose this is I1 and this is I2 and this is X and this is L by 2.
Yeah.
So you have I1 is equal to ICM plus mx square, and I2 is equal to ICM plus m L by 2 whole square, right?
Yeah.
So I1 minus I2 is equal to mx square minus ml square by 4. So you have actually I1 is equal to I2 plus, right?
Hmm.
This is the relation between I1 and I2.
Yeah.
So it's not like any two parallel axes you can write that, obviously. The theorem says that I of any axis is equal to ICM plus MD square. D is the distance of axis from CM axis of your required axis with center of mass axis,
Hmm.
right? And obviously it is, these two axes have to be parallel, then only it will work. Okay.
Hmm.
We have actually verified the calculation in that case. That's why it is obvious to see how it is working, right?
Yeah.
Be careful about not missing out on the CM. Don't write it to arbitrary parallel axis. That is not the case, right?
Right.
You have to
Yeah.
refer to the CM axis and then write this and then write this, and then you can find the relation between them, right? So this
Yeah.
will also be useful for calculating things like this. Suppose we know I of this plate I2, ICM we know, right? Mr square by 2. Now if my axis was not here but it was at the edge, right?
Right.
Now very easy, because it's just a shift.
Yeah.
It's just a shift.
That will be
I nu is equal to Mr square by 2 plus Mr square,
MR square. Right.
which is equal to 3 by 2 Mr square.
3M. Yeah.
Right? You don't have to do integrations if you can use parallel axis and perpendicular axis theorem properly. And you know some basic results. Right? So
Right.
the reason so much of moment of inertia calculations are being done is because many times there will be complicated questions where you'll need moment of inertia value for writing any equation, right? You will need to write I value to write this equation.
Yeah.
To find alpha and all, you need I. So, and I is different for the same body for a different axis, it is different, right? So
Correct.
it's not like, it's not so simple like mass in mechanics, right? Basic mechanics. Mass is always same for the body, no?
Correct.
Mass is not frame dependent, but moment of inertia is frame dependent. Correct?
Correct.
So, another example, both of you have understood this parallel and perpendicular axis theorem, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now one last example for moment of inertia. This is a hollow sphere, for example. Let's just do it. Hollow sphere. It has a radius r and mass is on the surface. Okay, it is on the surface, the mass is there. Mass is m, radius is r. Moment of inertia about any axis passing through the center. ICM. we want to find. Okay, so if I choose my center of mass axis like this, it will be rotating like that, right?
Hmm.
We have to find this value. Mass is distributed on the surface of the sphere.
Yeah.
So for this case, what we have to do is we have to take some element, obviously, and that element we have to find the moment of inertia of that element, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so element is a mass element, right? Always mass is what matters. So element has to be chosen appropriately to the mass, right? So in this case, I will choose a shell like this. Okay,
Yeah.
because this shell is going around, it's also rotating around the axis, and this has the mass on the surface, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So this radius is r. Let's say this angle is theta, right?
Yeah.
Correct. If this angle is theta, then this radius is r sine theta. Correct.
Yeah.
The actual radius of the ring
Yeah.
is r sine theta. I have to write, this is like a tiny ring now, right? Why is it a tiny ring? Because this is what is happening. There is a point here which makes an angle theta, and there is a tiny difference of d theta. This is the portion on the surface, right? Which you have taken across the whole sphere. You have rotated this, right? And you have made the shell. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Uh, I didn't understand.
Yes, sir. Please, can you explain it again?
So there is a this is the vertical diameter. Let's say we mark a point here, right, on the sphere.
Hmm.
This angle is theta. Increase the angle a little bit. So this angle is d theta, right? So there is a portion on the sphere like this, no? There is a portion
Yeah.
on the sphere which will be, this length will be r d theta, right?
Correct.
Now, if you rotate your radius vector like this, right, through 2 pi, right, then
Hmm.
you will go to different points on the shell, no, like this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm saying, how will you form the shell? You have to rotate your radius
Yeah.
vector in space, no?
Correct. Correct.
And everywhere the thickness is r d theta, right?
Yeah.
Are you understanding? It's like a cone that you are forming, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is how you will mark out the shell on that surface, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So the thickness of that area, the length of this arc is r d theta, and the radius of the perimeter of the thing will be 2 pi r sine theta.
Yes.
Because this radius was r sine theta, no? So
Yeah.
perimeter of this circle is 2 pi r sine theta, and
Yes.
slight thickness of the arc, which will give it the area, right? If you have a
Yeah.
perimeter and you have a thickness a little bit, right, then only you will get
Yeah.
a surface area, no?
Yeah.
Correct.
So this is length, this is a length multiplied by the r d theta, right, which is another length, right, which will give you the area covered on the surface, right?
Yeah.
So dm, dA is basically r d theta into this, so 2 pi r square sine theta d theta, right?
Yeah.
So mass element is basically m by 4 pi r square into 2 pi r square sine theta d theta, right?
Yeah.
M by 4 pi r square because mass per unit area.
Correct, correct.
So dm will come out to be m by 2 sine theta d theta, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Now we have found the mass of our shell, and now we know that the shell is a ring, right? A ring of radius r sine theta, right? And it is rotating about
Yeah.
this axis, which is the diametric axis, right? Ring moment of inertia, I know formula is dm into r square, right?
Yeah.
But here the r is different. R is r sine theta now, right?
Yeah.
Radius of the ring is not r, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So di can be written as dm into r square sine square theta. So this is m by 2 r square sine cube theta d theta,
Yeah.
because here I have to write actually sine square theta into this, right? This is my real moment of inertia. And dm, when you put m by 2 sine theta here, it becomes m by 2 r square sine cube theta d theta, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I have to integrate this. I have to integrate di, and integration of di will be, you have one variable theta, right? Theta will go from 0. If it was 0, it would be a point here, and if it was here, 0 to pi, no? If you go 0 to pi, you will cover all the shells, no?
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
You don't have to go 0 to 2 pi, obviously,
Hmm.
because then you will do double. You will do a circle. Same shells will come again and again, right?
Yeah.
You understand? Your shell
Yeah.
was, your angle was measured from the vertical, no? Angle theta was
Yeah.
measured from this, right? So theta can go from 0 to 180, right? To cover everything. You will cover all possible shells then,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
di integration is equal to 0 to pi m by 2 r square sine cube theta d theta, right?
Yeah.
So m by 2 r square comes outside. 0 to pi sine cube theta d theta I have to integrate, right? Now sine cube
Yeah.
theta d theta, if you want to integrate, what we will use is our knowledge of trigonometry. So I
3
can say
sine theta minus
uh,
that thing.
uh,
Okay.
sine 3 theta is equal to 3 sine theta minus 4 sine
Minus.
cube theta. So sine cube theta will be equal to 3 sine theta minus sine 3 theta by 4, right?
Yeah.
Right. So 3 sine theta minus sine 3 theta by 4. I have to
Yeah.
integrate.
Yeah.
Now this is an easy integration, is minus 3 by 4 cos theta, and
Yeah.
minus, this is also easy, but you have to be careful about this 3. So
Yeah.
minus 1 by 4 and minus
Into
cos 3 theta by 3,
3. Yeah.
right? And this
Yeah.
integration you have to do from 0 to pi, right? So
Yeah.
when you put pi here, it becomes minus 3 by 4 into minus 1. So 3 by 4, then it becomes plus 1 by 12 cos of 3 pi, right? Cos 3 pi
Yeah.
is again minus 1. And then you put
Yes.
minus of minus 3 by 4 and minus of this part. So 1 by 12 into cos 0 is 1, right?
Yeah.
So this becomes 3 by 4 plus 3 by 4 is 3 by 2 minus 1 by 12 minus 1 by 2. So minus 1 by 6. So that is equal to 9
Yeah.
by 6 minus 1 by 6, which is equal to 8 by 6 or 4 by 3, right? So you get
Yes,
m
sir.
by 2 r square into 4 by 3, and this becomes
Hmm.
2 by 3 mr square. Okay, for a hollow sphere.
Yeah,
So obviously you cannot do this in an exam, right?
correct.
You cannot
Yeah,
do this in an exam. You cannot do moment of inertia calculations by integration in an exam. So ideally, I mean, very rarely you will have such questions. Ideally, you need to know results and you need to know parallel axis and perpendicular axis theorem really well.
yeah,
You need to be able to apply those things, right? And now
right.
solid sphere derivation you can read from the book. Solid sphere is easy if you have
Yeah,
hollow sphere result, right? So think of a solid sphere
yeah,
as a
yeah,
combination
yeah,
of many hollow spheres.
correct.
It is very easy actually. Just use the hollow sphere results and start making your DM elements and vary your x
Yeah,
from 0 to r. Okay.
yeah,
So you can read it in HCV. It is explained properly. Uh, so today we have done basically many things. We have done basic ideas of vectors, pseudo vectors, torque calculations, definitions of alpha, omega, these things. And then we have done most of the time on moment of inertia. Moment of inertia calculations, different cases, perpendicular axis theorem and parallel axis theorem,
yeah,
right? Read the relevant sections, read those sections in HCV. There is important chunks of the theory that is still left. Uh,
hmm.
we have seen torque is equal to I alpha equation, and
Yeah,
we have seen I derivation. So now you can do questions which are basic questions on what is angular acceleration and whatnot, right? What we have not
the
yet done,
first starting questions.
F is equal to ma type things you can do, right?
Hmm.
Torque is equal to I alpha type of questions you can do. So, and
Yeah,
moment of inertia calculations you can do. So let me just look at the exercise once.
yeah,
You will be able to do questions till okay, wait.
20.
No. You should be able to do questions till like uh, okay. Anything before angular momentum you should be able to do. Like you can
Okay,
try till 45. Questions till
45.
45 because all of it is torque and accelerations and stuff.
Okay.
Torque, moment of inertia, and accelerations. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
questions till 45 are all about torque, moment of inertia, acceleration, and this equation, torque is equal to I alpha. Okay. So
yeah,
some of the questions will be calculation of moment of inertia. Some of the questions will be find the torque. And then obviously it will involve, after you go past questions say 30 onwards and all, it will involve old stuff from Newton's laws,
hmm.
NLM, friction, all of that stuff that we have learned earlier, right? So questions
Yeah,
could combine those things with rotation concepts like this, right?
yeah,
So what we have not yet done is angular momentum conservation, angular momentum idea, and work power energy stuff in rotation. So those ideas we have not yet
yeah,
done. We have not done rotation plus translation. Motion can be more complicated also. It can involve rotations and translations. So those things we have not done. It will take one more class or two more classes of theory properly to finish off
hmm.
everything. So till then you can try HCV examples which are all the theory that we have covered, those examples until question 40, 45.
Hmm.
It will not be very easy, but I mean, you should still be able to get 70, 80% of this. So
Yeah,
try this. Spend some time doing this, okay? Otherwise, it will not be. You'll not be able to do. You'll not be able to add anything in the next class. Things that there are
Yeah.
many ideas here that we have discussed. Just revise everything theoretically. Make sure that you are doing the derivations. You can calculate moment of inertia as yourself,
Yeah.
and you are able to attempt the questions properly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, I have one doubt in friction.
Hmm.
It's basically that there are two blocks, and the lower block is of mass 5 kg and the upper block is of mass 30 kg.
Mm-hmm.
And a force F is applied on the 30 kg mass,
Mm-hmm.
and the coefficient of friction between the 30 and the 5 kg block is given as mu s is equal to 0.6, and mu k is given as 0.5, and between the lower block it is mu s is equal to 0.3 and mu k is equal to 0.2. Yeah, the lower block and the ground. So we have to say the maximum value of F for which both the blocks will move together.
F maximum for moving together.
Yeah,
Okay. Moving together means no slipping between
correct.
this.
No, yeah,
No slipping here.
correct.
So no slipping here and slipping here.
Yes.
Then only moving. Otherwise, there was stationary, right?
Yeah,
So for slipping here, force applied should be greater than force should be greater than equal to 0.3 into 350, right?
yeah,
Then only 0.3 into 35
correct,
to 10.
correct.
So it is basically 105 Newton.
Hmm.
Force has to be greater than 105 for moving, right?
Yeah,
And here slipping, what is the force necessary for slipping? So this internal friction, right?
hmm.
Friction maximum value here is friction maximum value here is equal to 0.6 into 300,
Yeah,
correct? So this is equal to 6 by 10 into this
180.
180
Yeah,
Newton is the maximum value of friction.
correct.
So moving together means it is not slipping, means friction uh, slipping. So uh, okay, so if it was moving, then the force, this 180 Newton is sufficient to provide the acceleration overall, right?
Right.
I mean, the value of friction
Yeah,
is
yeah,
actually lesser, right?
correct.
So whatever acceleration comes overall, right? F by m.
We can consider M plus M because both of them moving together, right?
Hmm. F by 35, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Should be the F, no, not F by 35. F, there is a kinetic friction thing.
Okay, yeah, right.
So,
Hello?
yeah,
Yes, sir. Actually, there was some connection issue. So what did I miss?
I don't know when you were here last.
Uh, we were we were doing the moment of inertia for a hollow sphere.
We were doing moment of inertia for hollow sphere.
Like
We got it, no, finally.
no, like I got disconnected midway.
We got 2 by 3 mr square root.
Okay. Yeah, fine. I'll try to derive it by myself. Then, did we do anything after that?
No, then I discussed that we have to do till question 45 in HCV.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll do that. I will do that.
Wait. Here, this one, force maximum for moving together. Okay. So for forces on this top block are F, friction will oppose it, F, and forces on the bottom block are F and F kinetic, right? And correct. So this is
So
static.
which question is this?
This is some question that he has shared, Aditya. So
Okay.
F minus Fs is equal to 30 into A, and Fs minus Fk should be equal to 5 into A, right? And A is equal to F minus Fk by 35, right?
Yeah.
These are my equations, right?
Yeah.
So let's take maximum value of Fs, right?
Hmm.
Just about moving together, right?
Yeah.
Right. Fk value we anyway know what it will be.
Hmm.
So you will be able to find the thing, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It should be possible to find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Fk value we already know, no? 0.2 into 35, 350. So 70,
Yeah.
right?
70.
And Fs is 110, 180, right? Maximum.
180. Yes.
So 110 by 5. So 22. 22 is A, right?
Yeah.
F should be equal to Fs plus 66. 22 into this, right? 30. That seems very large. Something is going wrong.
Yeah. The answer is large itself. It's 800 something.
Okay, then 660, right?
Hmm.
And Fs is 180.
Yeah. I guess that's the answer.
You have to just write the equations. Make sure that this is static 180 value.
Yeah.
This is maximum value to just not slip, right?
Hmm.
And there is kinetic friction here, which is 70.
Yeah.
So there will be, now it is obvious. No, it's just these two
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
equations.
Yeah. 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 Got it.
Okay.
Thank you,
Uh,
sir.
so Dave, what we have to do is apply all of the things that we have learned, do the theory, see the derivations, examples of HCV till what theory we have covered. The only things we have not covered is angular momentum and rotation plus translation. And I mean, you can look through the textbook and see what you have not done.
Yeah. Sure, sir. I'll
So
do that.
torque is equal to I alpha, and applications of that and moment of inertia and all the theorems that we saw regarding it. These are the things we have done. So that will be till question number 40, 45 you can attempt.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sure.
We'll do
Thank
We'll
you.
that.
have a maths class then tomorrow, or you will see. Tomorrow, most probably, if you guys are free.
Yeah, we'll let
Yes, sir.
you
Yes,
know
sir.
because we might have an extra class also. So I will tell you by today night.
Yeah. We'll tell you by tonight.
Okay. Okay then. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Mm,
Okay. Thank you, sir. Bye.
mm.